Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss the poetic devices used in the poem Aunt Jennifer's Tigers written by Adrienne Rich. This poem is divided into three stanzas and we will discuss all poetic devices stanza wise. Let's have a look on stanza 1. In stanza 1, the poet says Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across the screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Let's have a look on the poetic devices used. There are four poetic devices that has been used by the poet here. The first one is rhyming scheme, the next one is anaphora, the next one is metaphor, and the last one is imagery. Let's have a look in the stanza 1 where these poetic devices has been used efficiently by the poet. First of all, we will talk about the rhyming scheme. As the rhyming scheme is mentioned, the rhyming scheme is AABB. So you all are aware that what actually is a rhyming scheme. Now here Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across her screen. So here screen is there. So we can locate it A. Bright topaz denizens of a world of green. So again screen and green, they are synchronizing with each other. So again it's A. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. So again it's a different sound. So we will locate it as B. They pace in sleek chivalric certainty. So tree certainty. E sound is being repeated. So again it is B. So this is what we call the rhyming scheme. So the rhyming scheme used in the poem is AABB. And when such kind of rhyming scheme is used, it can also be called as a couplet. Couplet means that two lines, they are synchronizing with each other. Let's have a look on the next poetic device that has been used. It's anaphora. Now what is anaphora? Use of same word in two consecutive lines. Use of same word in the two consecutive lines, that is called as anaphora. So here we can easily locate it in the poem that here they is used here. They do not fear the men beneath the tree, and as we can see the semicolon, so the sentence has been bifurcated. So they pace in sleek chivalric certainty. So again they is used. So such kind of sentences in which the first word is being repeated consecutively in the two different lines, that is called as anaphora. Now let's have a look on the third poetic device that has been used by the poet. It's metaphor. Now we all know what is metaphor. It's an indirect comparison, and how indirect comparison has been made by the poet. Let's have a look. Now if I have to locate it, I will locate it here. Bright topaz denizens of a world of green. So we can easily see that a bright topaz, as we all know, it's a kind of gem which is specially used by the people. And here topaz, the bright color of topaz is compared with the color of the tiger. So we can say that here metaphor is being used as. So use of topaz to describe the yellow color of tigers, the bright topaz is used indirectly to compare the color of the tigers. Now similarly in the same line, bright topaz denizens of a world of green, again imagery is there. Now imagery is a kind of thing. Imagery can be divided into different categories, but we will not go that much deep in imagery. We will discuss only the imagery that has been used here. So here the imagery which is used by the poet, it's visual imagery. Now visual imagery means what? Just close your eyes and just read this sentence. Just repeat this sentence. Bright topaz denizens of a world of green. So you will get the image in your mind that how the bright topaz, how the bright color of the tigers, they are sleeking, they are moving in the world of green. In the world of green here means the forest. Man beneath the tree. So you can see a bunch of people, those who are under the tree. World of green. World of green here, just close your eyes and you will get a kind of image in your mind that world of green means a dark, deep and dense forest. So this is what we called as imagery. Now the next stanza, it is stanza number 2. Here the poet says, Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So this is stanza number 2, and here the poetic devices has also been used by the poet, and the first one is again the same one, the rhyming scheme, that is AABB. We will locate it later on. The next one is alliteration, the repetition of the same sound, so that is also used here. Irony is the next one that has been used very efficiently by the poet, and the last one is hyperbole. So we will discuss them one by one. So let's have a look on the rhyming scheme. So as I told you earlier, in the stanza 1, here again A, wool, pull, band and hand. So A, B, B. So we can say that in the first two stanzas, the rhyming scheme is quite same. That is A, B, B. It means it is in couplets. And in stanza 3 also, we have the same rhyming scheme, that is A, B, B. So this is what the rhyming scheme is all about. Then the next poetic device that has been used by the poet, it is alliteration. And as I told you, alliteration means the repetition of the same sound. And in the first line of stanza 2, we can see fingers fluttering, the first sound. We hear F is written and F is produces the first sound, fingers fluttering. So first sound is being repeated. So we can say that in stanza 2, we have used, the poet has used the alliteration very efficiently. The next poetic device that has been used by the poet is all about irony. Now, what is an irony? Now, irony is what? That something which doesn't match with the name or the particular thing. For example, we have already discussed in the chapter Lost Spring, Sahib-e-Alam. Now, Sahib-e-Alam means what? The Lord of the universe. But what was his task? What was his profession? That he was a rag picker. It means something which is not something which is in contrast, or where we have a kind of pity with the person. So here also in this poem we have used, or the poet has used, the poetic device that is irony. A weak and submissive woman weaving a picture of tigers that are strong and fearless. Here see, the woman, who is the woman? Aunt Jennifer. She is weaving, she is doing the embroidery work here. And what is she doing? What is her characteristic? That she is very submissive. She is very weak. She is full of fear. But what is she drawing? What is she embroidering? What is she weaving? She is weaving the tigers which are very strong, which are very fearless. The brutal tigers are depicted as chivalric, and the cultured man is represented as an oppressor. So the cultured man is her husband, and he is trying to dominate her, he is trying to oppress her. Even when the creator dies, her work will still exist. So all these are the poetic devices, all these are the examples of irony which have been used in the poem. So if this sort of question comes in the final examination, you can easily mention about irony also. And the last one is hyperbole. Hyperbole means what? Something which is exaggerated, something overstatement we can call. In short, if we have to speak, we can call it overstatement. Let's see, where is it used? The weight of husband's wedding ring. See, the weight of husband's wedding ring. If I have to locate it, uncle's wedding band. See, the massive weight of uncle's wedding band. Here wedding band means what? It's a kind of small ring. And it is not that much heavy, but it has a exaggeration. The word wedding band is given a kind of overstatement here. And that's why it's a hyperbole. It's an overstatement, it's an exaggeration. So this is the stanza through 2. Let's have a discussion on the poetic devices used in stanza 3. When aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. So let's have a look on the poetic devices. Again, as I told earlier, that the rhyming scheme will remain same, that because the poem is written in couplets. So A, B, B. And alliteration is used here. And where is it used? Let's have a look. And here the alliteration is used. It is used in prancing proud. So again, per sound. And if I have to locate it, you can easily find it here in the last line of stanza 3, prancing proud. So the per sound is being repeated. So we can say it is again an example of alliteration. Now the most important factor, the most important poetic devices that has been used here in the poem in the last stanza, it is nectake and transferred epithet. Now, snegdake means what? Here, snegdake is used in terrified hands, and snegdake means for whole for a part or part for a whole. Here, terrified hands. Here we can see terrified hands. If I have to locate it, I will locate it here over here. Terrified hands. The hands, they are representing the whole body. It is not the hand which is terrified, it's the whole body. It's the whole Aunt Jennifer who is terrified by the her husband, that is our uncle. So here it is a example of snegdake, and this can also be called as a transferred epithet, because here the hands, they are not terrified. And if you want to know about the different categories of transfer the epithet, I have made few other videos on the a thing of beauty and other poems, so you can go through those poems also to understand the things better. So here we can say terrified hands is an example of snegdake, and it's also an example of transferred epithet. Transferred epithet means what? Terrified is an adjective, but it is mentioned for, it is being followed by the noun hands, but it's not for the hands, it is actually for aunt, that is the main noun over here. So we can easily call it there. Snegdake and transferred epithet. Now, pun, ring in her finger which sits heavily on her, and difficulties which will remain, which will always surround her. So pun is means what? Pun means it's a kind of poetic devices with a kind of word which has two different meanings. So the word that has been used very efficiently by the poet is ring. Now, ring has two different meanings. The first one is the ring which is, it is a symbol of which is a symbol of marriage, which is a symbol of wedding. And ring, the same ring, is also represents what? The same ring, it also represents a kind of burden, a kind that her life is surrounded by worries, tensions, and oppression itself only. So here pun is also used in the word ring. Now, contrast the characteristics of the Aunt Jennifer and that of the tigers. So the whole poem, if we have to collaborate the whole poem, it is a pure example of contrast, because Aunt Jennifer and the tigers that she is embroidering, they are totally opposite to each other. Opposite in the sense because Aunt Jennifer is very weak, she is very submissive, but the tigers, they are very bold, they are fearless, and they can move anywhere, whereas Aunt Jennifer is restricted within the four walls of the house. Now, the one more example that has been used here throughout the poem, that is paradox. Now, what is paradox? Aunt Jennifer's a trembling and a mastered woman creates free and confident tigers. So there is a slight difference between contrast and paradox. Contrast means that two statements are there and they are totally opposite to each other. But in case of paradox, the statement can be true or it can be untrue also. So here Aunt Jennifer, a trembling means shivering, and mastered means she is being dominated. Woman creates free and confident tigers. The tigers that she is embroidering, they are very sleek, they are very chivalric, they are very fearless, and fingers fluttering produce tigers who prance with certainty. When she was, there is a phrase, ivory hard to pull. So when the ivory means that the thing which was used to do the embroidery work, it was hard to pull. It means the fingers, they were fluttering, they were shivering, but the tigers that she produced, they were full of certainty. They had a kind of existence. So now one more poetic device is used throughout the poem, and that I would like to discuss with you people: symbols. Throughout the poem from stanza 1 till stanza 3, there are lots and lots of symbols have been used. So the first symbol that was used in the poem, it is itself in the title of the poem, Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Here tigers means what? Untamed free spirit. Untamed free spirit means what? See, tigers are there, and the tigers, they represent the male people, the males. Whereas Aunt Jennifer, she represents the women, and the tigers, they represent the men. So the tigers have been used here. Then Aunt Jennifer, a typical victim of male oppression. See, Aunt Jennifer's tiger. So we can say that Aunt Jennifer's tiger, we have two symbols over here. The first one is Aunt Jennifer. She is the typical victim of male oppression, and the tigers, they are represent the free spirits. Free spirits means they have the freedom, liberty, they have individuality, everything. But where on the other side, Aunt Jennifer has lost the freedom, she has lost the individuality. The next symbol is wedding band. And wedding band, as we can see, symbol of oppression in an unhappy life. Here, wedding band represents the ring. Ring is there, and ring symbolizes happiness because marriage is there, happiness is there. But it is totally in contrast to that particular thing, and it symbolizes what? It symbolizes oppression in an unhappy life or in an unhappy married life. And the last one that is the symbol is used is embroidery. Embroidery here means what? A symbol of creative expression. It means Aunt Jennifer is very creative, but she hasn't got that much opportunities in her life to show her creativeness. So this is all about the poetic devices that has been used in the poem. And if you have really liked the channel, kindly like, share and subscribe the channel, and thanks a lot.